Be a fun one, everyone. This is going to be a fun one. So as of right now, the Zips projections on Fangraphs here, they have the Phillies as the overwhelming favorite for this matchup. 66% compared to 33, right around 34% for the Mets. So the matchups and the big news today, I turned my head rather quick when I saw this one today. Kadai Senga being named the Game 1 starter. Wow. I figured he was done. I figured he was already basically packing his bags, or not getting the pitching glove out for the rest of October. But no, he is ready to go. He's been in Florida. He's been working out. He's been throwing. I did not expect this one today. But Kadai Senga going up against Zach Wheeler in Game 1. And isn't this pretty fun? You know, obviously we have seen Zach Wheeler go up against the Mets over the last few years, but Zach Wheeler going up against his old team in the postseason, that's pretty nifty. Game 2, this one was also a little bit surprising from the Phillies' point of view, but you'll find out not so surprising. We got Luis Severino against Christopher Sanchez. So we're so used to seeing Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola go back-to-back, and now we got Christopher Sanchez going Game 2. I'll explain that in just a second. Game 3, solid matchup here. Sean Manaea, Aaron Nola. And then Game 4, as of right now, they have it slated as Jose Quintana against Ranger Suarez. You never know what can happen with the pitching matchups as you progress through a series. Things can change, but I would imagine these are going to be the first 3 games at least. So taking a look at this series, and let's look at Game 1 here, shall we? So Kadai Senga, obviously, he's been hurt a lot this year. I think he has only made 1 start this year at the major league level. He went 5 1/3. He was having a big problem with the calf, a big strain there. He was having arm issues early on. So, I mean, listen, if you're looking at it from an innings perspective, this man is fresh. He has not really thrown really any innings at all this year besides, minor league innings and, live BPs and whatnot. So it's pretty much a question mark at this point what to expect with Kadai Senga. They basically said, or they asked them today, what's the game plan? How many innings? Kadai Senga said, hey, if they want me to throw 10 pitches, I'll throw 10 pitches. If they want 200 pitches or whatever, I can't remember the exact quote, but he said, all right, well, then we'll do 200 pitches, right? Kadai Senga's ready to go. He's just going to go out there, take the ball, and just give it his best shot, right? And, hey, we saw how good this guy was last year. Could this end up being, a move where maybe it comes back to bite him a little bit? We'll see. But really, when you look at all the options that the Mets had, I was wondering about this last night. I was thinking, well, could they go David Peterson here? They did pitch him in an inning in Game 3 against the Brewers, but I figured you have the day off, so maybe you can just go back to David Peterson for Game 1 here. Could you just go with a bullpen game, something like that? So there weren't really a whole lot of options. I was also even thinking about Tyler McGill. Maybe they could have activated him for this series. But in the end, when you kind of look at all the options, with David Peterson coming out of the bullpen, when you just pitched 2 days prior, how far are the Mets willing to let him go there? But with Kadai Senga, you pretty much just got a fresh slate here and give him the ball and just see what he can do and see how far he can get. I would imagine this is going to be a rather tight leash. I don't think they're going to, they're going to get that bullpen warmed up pretty quick. If he starts running into some issues, could it end up being a bullpen game? We'll see. You never know. You don't know what you're going to get out of Senga. We can look at last year's numbers. Obviously he had a fantastic year. This guy has great stuff. We know what this guy can do. He's got the ghost ball, right? Got that nasty fork ball. He's got the good velo. Kadai Senga is very good when he is on top of his game. The question is, will he be on top of his game tomorrow? I think it's a lot to ask, for this guy to be at the top of his game like you would expect out of a game one starter. You know, it's a very unique scenario here. I'm excited to see what happens, though. We'll see. But Kadai Senga, he is going to have his hands full in game one, right? You know, we got a great lineup here in Philadelphia. You know, when you're taking a look here at the Phillies lineup, I mean, you just got bats all over the place. We know what the Phillies got, right? You got Harper, you got Schwarber, you got Turner, you got Castellanos, you got Bohm. You got Real Muto, right? You got bats at the bottom of the order like Hayes, Marsh. You know, very good lineup. Any pitcher out there is going to have their hands full with the Phillies lineup. So we'll see. I will say it. I think really it's a wait and see, right? They're going to see how far he can go. They're going to milk this as much as possible. If he can go 5, I mean, that's fantastic. That would be a huge lift for the Mets. I'm excited to see that. But if we're looking at the other matchups here, now Luis Severino, Christopher Sanchez, right? Luis Severino, you know, he was kind of whatever in the game one start against the Brewers, didn't really pitch all that deep. But Christopher Sanchez, people are looking at this choice here and thinking, well, hold on a second. Well, what about Aaron Nola? It's been Wheeler Nola for the last couple of years. Well, Christopher Sanchez, he has not performed very well on the road this year. A 5.02 ERA on the road compared to phenomenal numbers at home, a 2.21 ERA. He actually ranks all time, I believe in the top 3 all time when it came to ERA at home in Phillies history. I think the other two were Roy Halladay and Curt Schilling. So, hey, you know what? Roll with it. If he pitches well at home, stick him out there at home. So, and then you got Aaron Nola for game 3. Now, Aaron Nola, you know, his numbers at home are actually better as well. On the road, his numbers are fine. ERA at a 3.87. The FIP is a little higher at a 4.14. But Aaron Nola, I mean, come on. You know, this guy's he's a pro's pro. This guy's one of the veterans on the team. You're going to trust that guy with the ball in New York. I think he'll live up to it. So, but when it comes to the Mets here, you know, if we're looking at, you know, what could be some keys for the Mets, I personally think they need to do what they do well, and that's jump on fastballs. The Mets are very good at hitting fastballs this year. And what does Wheeler go to a lot? He goes to the fastball a lot, right? Wheeler, he definitely mixes and matches a lot of the pitches, right? If we take a look at the breakdown, 4-seamer at 41%. He mixes in the sinker, mixes in the sweeper, has the curve, has the cutter, but he really goes heavy with that fastball. So I think Zach Wheeler, he's going to have to adjust the pitch mix a little bit. He's probably going to have to lean a bit more on the sinkers, incorporate some sweepers in there a little bit more. You don't want to be throwing fastballs to Francisco Lindor, who has just mashed against that pitch this year. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup for Zach Wheeler here. And I'll also point out Pete Alonso, right? Obviously the hero of Game 3 against the Brewers. He came up big, but he was not having a good series up to that point. He had been slumping over the last 2 to 3 weeks prior to that in the regular season. They need him to stay hot. They need that production in the middle of the order. Now, listen, the Mets' top of the order, it's excellent, right? Lindor, Vientos, Nimmo. But Alonso, you know, he's going to have to come through when those guys at the top of the order are getting on base. He's going to have to keep this up, especially against this very good Phillies team where there's not a lot of room for error at this point. You know, if you're looking at the bottom of the Mets order, you know, it does drop off a little bit, right? Jose Iglesias, you know, I think he's been solid for the most part this year. You know, Jesse Winker, say what you will about him. He likes to stir the pot out there. He likes to get under people's skin, but you know, Jesse Winker, he's been able to perform for the most part. You've been getting a little bit out of Starling Marte, you know, Tyrone Taylor, but Alonso is going to be key here. The top of the order for the Mets, they're going to have to produce, because I wonder how much the bottom of the order is going to produce against this very good Phillies pitching staff. And also, I'll look at Francisco Alvarez. You know, Alvarez, you know, he's had himself a pretty tough year this year, under 350 plate appearances. Not the same kind of numbers that we were seeing from him last year where he had 25 home runs. I would like for Francisco Alvarez to step up a little bit here at the bottom of the order and to, set the table for the top of the order there. So I think that's going to be key. But for the Mets, really, it's just keep doing what you're doing at this point. You're hot. Things are clicking. You're coming up with the timely hits. They just got to make sure they're getting the starting pitching under control. They're going to have to get the most out of these guys, and getting back to Senga. That would be great if they could get a good performance out of him, but that's going to be a big question mark here because of Senga. If he doesn't have it in the first couple innings, the Mets, they're going to have to turn to that bullpen. Could they look to, again, maybe someone like David Peterson, where he can come in for, try and eat up a good amount of innings there? I could definitely see that happening. So we'll see. But they're going to have to start off on the right foot, and if any team can do it, it is the Mets at this point with how hot they are. Now, if you're looking at the Phillies, listen, I'm just going to point out the obvious here. It's kind of radio talk. It's kind of water cooler kind of talk, but we've seen what the Phillies have done the last couple of years as a wild card team. We have not seen what the Phillies do as a division winning team that has had a bit of a layoff. The Braves have fallen victim to the Phillies over the last couple of years after the Braves looked phenomenal in the regular season, but then the Phillies, they kept their mojo going as the wild card. And then they knock off these, very good Braves teams over the last couple of years. So let's see what happens here when the roles are reversed. You got a hot Mets team that they're feeling great. The vibes are immaculate right now. Could you possibly see the Phillies get a bit of a taste of their own medicine a little bit, where they've had the layoff now for a few days? They're doing what they can over there, right? Going up against high velo pitching machines and whatnot. They're trying to stay fresh. They're playing simulated games, but we've talked about this before. It's not the same as actual games. So I'm curious, because that was a big talking point last year where people were thinking, all right, maybe this wild card round isn't really a great idea because the team that wins the division, they got to sit there on their hands for a few days while those other teams are building momentum, So I'm curious about this, right? But the Phillies, their offense was good down the stretch, but again, will they get iced a little bit? Their offense was performing well in the month of September. This is where they're really going to have to count on the starting pitching, just in case if the offense does get off to a bit of a cold start, this is where you're going to need Wheeler, Sanchez, and Nola to really step up for them. But really, at the end of the day, this Phillies team, they are built to win a World Series. When you look at the team top to bottom, the offense has a great line. It's a great lineup top to bottom. The starting pitching, obviously, these guys are great here. I do think Sanchez, let's see, what he can do as the game 2 starter. If you're making that move, right, based off of the home numbers, he's going to have to come through, right? Because what if you see a situation where maybe the Mets get to Wheeler a little bit, they figure him out, and maybe the Mets steal game 1. Well, you're going Christopher Sanchez for game 2 over Aaron Nola. What if that blows up in your face a little bit? Sure, the numbers at home have been great, but, who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But bullpen. The Phillies bullpen, they were having a couple of little bumps here and there down the stretch. But listen, sure, you can look at the numbers, but when you look at the arms that the Phillies have, my goodness, some of these arms are just so good. Estevez has been a good pickup for them. Love me some Hoffman at the back. Kirkering, that guy's nasty. Sure, he's had his struggles as of late, but listen, like I said, you've had the bit of a layoff here, so for the pitching side of things, that could end up being a good thing. Strom, he's been solid. You got Jose Alvarado in middle relief. This is a great team top to bottom. Again, my main concern, will they get iced? That's pretty much it for me. They have a lot to handle here with this hot Mets team. Let's move on here to a couple super chats. Holy DCE 499. Are we going to see an end to the National League Division Series curse for the division winners? Go Phillies. I don't know. I really don't know. I am interested to see how the Phillies respond, because we haven't seen them in this spot, right? We've seen the Braves. But I actually wonder, I'll kind of back up a little bit. Could this layoff end up being good for the Phillies? If you go back the last couple of years, like I said, they have been the wild card team. The Phillies have been playing a lot of baseball over the last couple of years, right? Made it to the World Series, Game 6 against the Astros. Last year, making it to Game 7 of the National League Championship Series. Playing in the wild card rounds both times, So the Phillies, could this layoff actually be good for them? Maybe get off their legs a little bit, get them freshened up a little bit. So we'll see. Moonshadow 91, 99 cents. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. But if I were to go with a prediction here, I hate to do it because the Mets have been hot. But I feel like if you're looking at it head to head, I think I got to lean Phillies here. That they are my pick to win the World Series this year. Third time's a charm. I'm believing in the Phillies. But I will also say, sure, maybe I'm leaning Phillies, but I just think the Mets, you never know with a hot team. You never know. The Rockies in 2007, I'll always remember that team. You never know. Just saying. I think if the Mets can get to Wheeler in that first game, that could really set the tone. That's going to be big. But again, it's really hard to say, you all know me. I'm not good with predictions anyway, so what the heck am I even talking about? But we can all agree, I think, that it's really hard to predict what Kadai Senga is going to give you in Game 1. You don't know. He could go out there and twirl a gem, or he could absolutely get shelled. It could go either way, in my opinion. If you were to look at it based off of rust, I would imagine the Phillies are going to try and jump all over him. We'll see. But I will lean Phillies in this series. I just trust Wheeler, Nola, and you got Sanchez. The fact that Sanchez stepped up in such a big way this year, that he gives the Phillies another option. We have seen Ranger Suarez over the last couple of years step up big time, but he's had his issues down the stretch. He still is an option here, but the fact that Sanchez has just emerged and broken out just gives the Phillies something else to lean on, For me, I feel like the Phillies, right now at least, I feel like they have too much. I'll lean to them in this series, but it's kind of a cop-out answer, but the Mets, they're hot. They could win this, We'll see. But let's move on here. Let's go to the American League. And let me close out of these tabs. Here we go. Let's talk about the Tigers and the Guardians. I feel like out of the 4 series, I feel like this one, sorry Tigers fans, sorry Guardians fans, it's probably going to be the lowest rated series out of all of them. Listen, come on. I think we can all agree. Padres and the Dodgers, that's cinema. That's blockbuster. Phillies, Mets. Come on. Phillies, with how good they've been and how hot the Mets have been, and you got the Yankees and the Royals. The Yankees are the Yankees. So I would probably say this is one that probably does not get the most eyeballs, but that's okay because you got a division rivalry here. So as of right now, Zips, they are leaning towards the Guardians in this series. And for the Guardians, I'm not sure. I've been seeing Guardians fans really. They've been coming out of the woodworks as of late. Stepping up for their team. Because listen, the Guardians have had a good season this year, and for me, when it came to my predictions, which again, you all know me, I am far from Nostradamus by any means. I'll get one here and there. I'll I'll get a juicy one, but my overall record is not very good. But I don't know. There's something about the Guardians, I'm not feeling. I look at the starting pitching. Now, I will say this about the Guardians starting pitching. They have performed better down the stretch. When you take a look at the numbers for September, I believe they ranked 3rd overall in Fangraph wins above replacement. They were getting guys stepping up for them down the stretch. Tanner Bybee, Boyd, Lively, they were all pitching well in that final month. But overall on the year, they were 27th in Major League Baseball. ERA was a 4.40. Sure, that definitely includes guys, that were getting lit up a little bit. Like guys like, Logan Allen, Tristan McKenzie, they were getting hit. So, yeah, you were definitely getting a lot of clunkers in that mix. And don't forget about Gavin Williams. Gavin Williams, when you take a look at the numbers in the final month with him, ERA wasn't great looking, but the FIP was better. So, the Guardians, if they can just get enough out of the starting pitching, right? Bybee, he is, I believe, going to have to pitch a bit better against the Tigers this year. Bybee has actually gone up against the Tigers quite a bit this year. I believe 4 starts, 22 innings overall, 11 earned runs, ERA at a 4.50, FIP at a 3.44 though. So let's see if Bybee, can kind of get that ERA down. The FIP suggests that he's, that ERA should be lower. But Bybee, I think, is going to have to set the tone. You're going to hear me say that phrase a few times here, but that's really a big factor when it comes to any start to a series, setting the tone. If they can get a good performance out of him, that's going to set up the Guardians nicely, because the key for the Guardians, in my opinion, is just getting enough out of the starting pitching and getting it to that bullpen, which ranks number 1 overall in Major League Baseball this year. If they can get that done, the Guardians will absolutely have a chance in this series. But again, you're going to have to just get at least the minimum out of these guys. Get at least 4 innings if you can. 5 innings preferably, right? If they can do that, the Guardians, they will have that chance, right? Because that bullpen has really stepped up for them this year. Now, when it comes to the offense, Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, they've been the big bats for them in the middle of the order. You got Quan at the top here. But they're going to have other guys in this lineup step up. They picked up Lane Thomas at the deadline. You also got Kyle Manzardo, who came back up this year. He hit well down the stretch. So if those guys can perform and give just more extension for this lineup, I think the lineup should be fine. I think it should be fine. We'll talk about the Tigers pitching staff in just a little bit, but the Tigers pitching staff, love what they have done. I love how creative they've gotten, but listen, this isn't the Kansas City Royals starting pitching by any means. Well, besides Scooble, of course. But when it comes to an entire pitching staff, a better example, this isn't, the Padres starting pitching, right? This isn't the Phillies starting pitching, It's the Tigers pitching staff has been fun. They've been getting it done in creative ways, but I think this Guardians team has enough offense to be able to make something happen against the Tigers pitching. But in the end, the Guardians, they're a good fundamental team. They play great defense. If they can just get do the things that win you championships, and that's play good defense and pitch, they got enough offense to get something done. We'll see. But the starting pitching is definitely a big key for the Guardians in this series. Now moving on to the Tigers. I mean, we all know how hot this Tigers team has been. You want to talk about hot teams. The Tigers have definitely been a hot team ever since August 1st, ever since they traded away Jack Flaherty, got Trey Sweeney back in that deal. He has really stepped up for them in a big way, and that has just leaked over to everyone else in this lineup. You took Javier Baez out of that lineup for the Tigers, and everyone has just started producing. It feels like when you took Baez out and you put in some other guys there, it felt like all of a sudden everyone else had a little bit better protection in that lineup. Baez is just a complete black hole. But you've had a lot of guys here step up for the Tigers. Now, if we were to go take a look at the lineup for the Tigers here, but they had to have a couple of guys that, get sent back down to the minor leagues and then come back up. Parker Meadows, Torkelson, and they've both been a lot better since coming up. Parker Meadows, he had a few good moments in that Astros series. I am looking for a little bit more out of Torkelson. It seemed like Torkelson was kind of in the middle of some key defensive plays in that series, but I need something from Torkelson's bat. I need him to step up in a big way. Now, he was showing good patience against the Astros. He was working some walks, but I need a little bit more damage from Torkelson's bat, in my opinion. But Riley Green, I want Riley Green to do a little bit more. He was pretty quiet in that wild card round, But for the Tigers, it's not a murderer's row lineup by any means, but they're doing the small things. I talked about this in a video I made a couple of weeks ago where the Tigers, they've really worked on trying to put the ball on the ground a little bit more. And you saw that a lot in the Astros series. You saw a lot of balls just trickle on through. Not really hard hit balls, but, I'd say, medium contact, but just in the right spot to get by through the infield, and they get a base hit out of it. But when you combine the fact that they're trying to get the ball just simply in play more compared to, getting under the ball so much, which, they were leaning more on those fly balls. They were getting under the ball a lot more in the first half. They have great base running to go along with it. When they just put the ball in play, those guys, they run the base as well. They're very aggressive on the base paths. One thing the Tigers did very well against that Astros team where they were moving from, first to third. They were aggressive, second to home. Even though it might have looked like a close play, they were making things happen on the base paths. That's a big thing for the Tigers. So just keep playing their game. That's a big key for them. Just keep doing what you're doing. What you're doing is working at this point in the lineup. But I would like to see Green and Torkelson kind of come up a bit with a couple more big spots if they can. Let's see if they could add something there. But when you're looking at the Tigers, all eyes are on Tarek Skubal. This is hilarious. This is so funny. You got Skubal and Olsen. That's your rotation. It's just funny to me. It's Skubal and everyone else. So Reese Olsen will be getting the game one start. But again, Olsen, I can see him going a little further, but you never know what the Tigers end up doing when it comes to how they manage the bullpen. But I think they would like for Olsen to give them a decent outing. You don't want to have to go to the bullpen as early as possible, right? You would like for Olsen to give you a good start, but they do have a lot of arms in that bullpen. So whatever it ends up being, again, you're going to see pretty much, besides when Skubal pitches, you're going to see bullpen games left and right. You're going to see different matchups. AJ Hinch, he's going to try and push as many correct buttons as he can. And so far, especially in the second half, he has done a great job of that. You saw guys like Will Vest come into that series. He looked amazing. Will Vest, I expect him to keep things going here. How much do we see Jackson Jobe in this series? I wonder. He came in, in that one spot there, and I don't know. I think the lights might have been a little too bright. I think he's going to be an amazing pitcher. But Jackson Jobe, I wonder how much we see of him. But who knows? Maybe Hinch, he stays aggressive and he puts him in some key spots. I would imagine you're going to see a lot of outings out of Brant Herter. You're going to see Tyler Holton. Jason Foley was a little shaky in that Astros series. So let's see how he does here against the Guardians. And Bo Brisky. Bo Brisky was getting a lot of opportunities against the Astros. So not really worried about the pitching staff. Again, it's quirky. It's fun. It's different. But I expect the Tigers to just keep using the quirkiness to their advantage. But again, if they can jump out to a 1-0 lead, if they can get a good game one, Olsen, get a decent start, have the bullpen bridge the gap to the end, get the game one win, and then you got Skubal for game two, you're sitting pretty at that point. You're sitting very pretty because you have as good of a chance of anyone to go up 2-0 in a series. So that's just how I feel. Now, again, I'll get back to the Guardians. I do like a lot of the Guardians, and I think they have a chance in this series, but I will disagree with these projections here. They got the Guardians at 57.5, Tigers at 42.5. Personally, I just think the Tigers have figured out a system. This system might not work next year. This system might be something where, I mean, this is kind of a once in a while thing where you kind of strike gold and it's working and you just keep going with it. I guarantee if they try this again next year, it's not going to work, right? But, or at least, try to do it exactly like how they're doing, right? But it's working right now, so keep with it. I think they're, it's quirky, and when you look at the projections, that's probably, the big thing there, because it's kind of hard to really give projections for the Tigers pitching staff because it's just something you haven't really seen all that much. So, but for me, I think they're going to come out in game one. I think Olsen, will he twirl a gem? I don't know. I don't think he'll twirl a gem by any means, but I think he'll at least give you a decent start overall. The bullpen, the way they've been able to manage things, I think the Tigers will put together a good game plan to go up against the Guardians where, when you look at the lineup, it's not like they're having to figure out Aaron Judge and Juan Soto by any means. Right now, you're going to have to deal with Jose Ramirez, and Josh Naylor. But, if we're taking a look at Jose Ramirez, when you take a look at the batting average, up here, he's hitting 467 in this zone. He does not tend to do very well, right over here. He's only hitting 147 in this upper zone. So I think if they attack right around here for him, that could be a decent game plan. But Jose Ramirez, at the end of the day, we know what this guy can do. Almost had a 40-40 season. Now, Josh Naylor, on the other hand, if we're looking at the batting average, or let's look at the slugging, right? I mean, he does good at balls up in the zone. So I think for the Tigers, they need to simply just avoid, the upper part of the strike zone. And when it comes to his swing percentage, he does swing a little bit out of the zone, right? There is some chase, not a lot, but it's a decent amount that you can exploit. But I think, again, it's really going to come down to, will they execute against these guys, But again, you only have to worry about really two guys, in this lineup. Sure, Lane Thomas, Manzardo, let's see if they can keep it going. Quan, obviously, is pesky. But when it comes to the big boppers in this lineup for the Guardians, you really have to just focus on attacking, really, Jose Ramirez, of course, but when it comes to the rest of it, I'm trying not to say the wrong thing because I don't want to offend the Guardians fans out there. But, I mean, it's not, a Dodgers lineup. It's not a Padres lineup. It's okay. But, I'm just saying for the Tigers, with what they're doing, with the game plan that they've been going after in the second half, I think they can handle this Guardians team. They've had a ton of success with the way they've been managing these innings from these guys. I don't really say with the Tigers, starting pitching and bullpen. It's really just the entire pitching staff. So, the Guardians bullpen against the Tigers' entire pitching staff, I think the Tigers, they can get it done as well. All right, it's going to come down to, I think, the timely hitting, and the Tigers so far, they've done a great job at it. And I think there's more options in that lineup for the Tigers to really give the Guardians starting pitching some fits, personally. That's just what I'm leaning. I will lean Tigers in this series. I definitely think it could go 5. It's obviously a division rivalry. These teams know each other very well, so I definitely think the Guardians, they're going to be tough, but I do expect the Tigers to win this series. In the end, will it be 5? Could it be 4? I'm just saying, if you got Olsen, if they do well there in game 1, if they can steal game 1 and you got Skubal for 2, I mean, you're looking at a potential. I think the Guardians will win at least 1 in this series. We'll see. I think it will go at 4 or 5. I don't think we're going to see a sweep, by any means, but I will go Tigers. I'll go 5 games. Division rivals, they play each other tough. But here we go. Let's move on here. Let's stay in the American League. Let's focus on the other matchup, right? You got 3 Central teams and 1 American League East team. Now, I was actually a little surprised when I saw the projections for the Yankees and the Royals. I actually thought it was going to be more lopsided than this. The Yankees right now, 55%, Royals at 44%. I really thought this was going to be like a 70-30, but this is pretty close. There's a gap, right? But it's a lot closer than what I thought. I'm going to say this right now. This could be a hot take. Now, the Yankees should win this series. They should. And Yankee fans, don't come after me. I've been getting the comments from the Yankee fans as of late saying, "Oh, so of course, Red Sox fan." I picked the Yankees to go to the World Series in 2020 and 2021. So enough of that nonsense. I had the Yankees winning the World Series, I believe, in 2021. So don't even come at me with that nonsense. You all know I am very unbiased when it comes to the Yankees. So don't even give me that. But for the Yankees, they should win this series. When you look at the stars that they have, you got Soto, you got Judge, you got Cole leading the pitching staff, right? You got Rodon behind him. You got Jazz as well. You got Stanton, right? They're not the stars like Judge and Soto are, but the Yankees should win this series. Now, when you look at the Royals, though, I think this Royals team, this is where matchups are so important in the postseason. They're so important. Now, Garrett Cole for game 1. Garrett Cole, we know he can shove. We know what he can do. Garrett Cole is going to go out there. He's going to pitch great. I expect the Yankees to win game 1. They're going to be in the Bronx. There's going to be energy. I think the Yankees will prevail in game 1. But this is where it gets a little hairy, in my opinion. Cole Ragans against Carlos Rodon. I mean, listen, Ragans, the Orioles threw Corbin Burns at Ragans, and that did nothing. Corbin Burns is much better than Carlos Rodon. I'm just saying. Carlos Rodon this year, when you look at the advanced metrics, he's fine with, half of them, but not so much when it comes to some other aspects, right? Let me actually pull up Rodon here. Looking at Rodon. As you can see here, expected ERA ranks in the bottom half. Does, he's fine with the expected numbers for the most part. The velo has been good this year, but he has been giving up a lot of hard hit balls. He's in the bottom 11% when it comes to average exit velocity. He tends to get hit pretty hard, and as you can see here, look at the batted ball profile. He gives up a lot of barrels, a lot of hard hit balls. He doesn't get a lot of ground balls, right? And Rodon, I mean, listen, when it comes to a game 2 matchup, I mean, I'm leaning Cole Ragans here. And I think the Royals, the Royals, when you look at their lineup, I mean, we know this. I mean, listen, you can say what you will about how the Royals, they surprised everyone by beating the Orioles, but they didn't, score a ton of runs. They scored 3 runs total, So there's not a whole lot of offense here. It took their pitching to get by. So, yeah, I mean, Pasquantino, he kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought there was going to be a bit of rust. I am sorry. I apologize to that man. He really stepped up. But we all know what Bobby Witt can do there. Salvi, they got a few bats, right? They can make some moves, but they're going to have to rely on the timely hitting. The Royals have done well when it comes to the timely hitting this year. Very good with runners in scoring position. They ranked 7th overall when it came to WRC plus with runners in scoring position. So I think they should be able to do enough against Rodon. And then Reagan's, if he keeps up what he's doing, I mean, this guy's been phenomenal, right? And he pitched well against the Yankees this last time out. Now, if we were to go take a look at Juan Soto, right? Juan Soto has had an amazing year. Now, I think they're going to look at Soto. You know, they're going to look at the scouting report here, and they're going to try and attack him the best way possible, right? Now, we all know Soto is so good. Golden Spation, $1.99. Yankees scored 10-plus runs 3 times against the Royals. I'm going to be on. Thank you for the super chat. It doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. The Rangers were 4-9 against the Astros in the regular season last year. Doesn't matter. The Rangers ended up winning that series in 7 games and won the World Series. You know, I understand it. You know, yes, you can look at regular season. This is different. It's postseason. You turn the page. You flip the calendar to October. It's not the same. It's just not. I respect what you're saying, but it's just not the same. It's different matchups. It's your best pitching. It's, you know, guys make adjustments since then. You know, it's. I'm not saying that, you know, that can't come into play here, but you can't just lean so much on what happened in the regular season. You got guys that are coming up in the regular season. You know, they're coming up from the minor leagues. You know, someone goes down with an injury, right? You got the guys that you had during the regular season are not the same group of guys that you have in the postseason. You know, things change. It's just different. But I'm always going to use that example of the Rangers, where they were 4-9 against the Astros last year. The Astros owned them. And the Rangers beat them in 7 games. And they beat them in the 7th game in Houston. You know? So it's like, yeah, you know, I'm just saying. You know, but anyway, I'm not trying to pick on you. I appreciate the support, you know. But listen, but you make a great point. The Yankees offense, it's scary. When these guys are on, yeah, they could definitely do a lot of damage, right? So, but this is why I'm saying, you know, I know they are studying the Juan Soto, the scouting reports very heavily, right? So if you look at Juan Soto here, when it comes to the swing percentage by zone, he doesn't really swing outside of the zone all that much. He is very disciplined. It's going to be tough, all right? But if you go here to his slugging in the zone, I mean, if you pretty much leave a ball over the plate, you're going to get hit hard. So Reagan's, Lugo, they're going to have to paint the corners. He has not done Soto doesn't do very well when it comes to balls low, right? Doesn't do very well there. But if you leave a ball up, he's going to take you to town. He's going to take your lunch money. He's going to eat your lunch in front of you. But if they can just paint those corners against them, they'll have success. But that's a tough ask, man. That's good execution there. Now, as for Aaron Judge, right? Kind of a similar story. He doesn't really swing really outside of the zone all that much. He does all of his damage in the zone, right? But if you look at the slugging percentage, funny enough, he doesn't do very well up in the strike zone. All of his damage has been middle in, right? Middle away. But if you go up on him, that tends to be where they give him, you know, he has some fits a little bit. If you look at batting average, you know, you can see here, batting average, he hasn't gotten one hit at all against balls that are up in the strike zone, right? So if they can attack those zones, and you got two guys who have been phenomenal this year, it's going to come down to the execution here. If you can keep Judge and Soto at bay, that's going to be huge, right? But they're going to have a perfect game plan. You know, they're going to have to execute their game plan perfectly. But this is where I have another key for the Yankees. The Yankees, they are going to have other guys really come through, right? It can't just be all about Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, right? Torres, he's going to need to do something at the top of the order. Jazz Chisholm has been a good pickup for them. Can he be that guy for them, right? Stan. Can Stan do some things here, right? I feel like we all forget about, Stan, but let's see if he can do something. Verdugo. I mean, can Verdugo actually do something? Volpe, Because the thing is, the Royals, they are going to attack Soto and Judge with all their might. Not just Reagans and not just Lugo, but the bullpen guys as well. They're going to go after those guys. But they're going to have these other guys put the pressure on. They need a deep lineup, right? I mean, everyone needs a deep lineup. But, for the Yankees, just because I think the Royals are going to put so much emphasis on Soto and Judge, they need these other guys to put the pressure on. So I think that's going to be the big key for the Yankees when it comes to the offense. But if the Royals can keep it at bay, if they can keep the runs to a minimum, and if they can just get the timely hitting, I mean, because if you go, again, we'll go back to the Yankees pitching staff. Garrett Cole, I think Garrett Cole will get it done. I think Garrett Cole, that game 1 start, Yankee Stadium's going to be rocking. Soto, Judge probably go back-to-back. I mean, I think you're going to end up seeing a textbook Yankee win, right? Star power's on. The Bronx is buzzing. They'll go up 1-0. If they take game 1, oh man. I'm just saying. If they steal game 1 of the Bronx, that's bad. That would be bad for the Yankees. I think there is a little bit of pressure for the Yankees to come out of the gate and take game 1. Because, again, you got Reagans and Lugo for game 2 and 3. So you got Waka for the Royals. Waka's been good this year. But again, I'll trust that energy that comes into play there. You got those outside factors like the crowd. I think the Yankees. I'll give them the edge in game 1. But again, Rodon, I pointed out. The advanced metrics. I'm not a big fan of that. And against Reagans, I think that could easily be after 2 games. I think you could be tied up a game each, and then game 3. Luis Gil, he has had a good year. You got to love what Luis Gil has done this year. But this is the postseason. And you're going up against Seth Lugo in Kansas City. Lugo's been fantastic. And actually, we can go take a look. How has Lugo done at home this year? We'll actually take a look at Reagans on the road. Seth Lugo at home. And funny enough, Lugo's actually been better on the road. But he's been fine at home. ERA at a 3.36. On the road, at home, FIP of 3.46, so right around the same. So, Lugo's he's gonna give you at least a quality start, in my opinion. Lugo's so good. This is why he was highly sought after last year, because the guy has like 20 different pitches that he throws, and he's just so hard to pick up. But the fact that you got Lugo going up against Gil for a game 3, I mean, matchup-wise, if you're just looking at it from the pitching point of view, I think the Royals, I would not be surprised at all to see the Royals go up 2-1 in this series. I don't know, because when you got a guy like Luis Gil, where he's got great stuff, how many times in the past have we seen a guy where, young, good stuff, and then the lights, they get a little bright, and, but then again, we have seen guys step up in the past before, young guys, where they come up and they have a performance for the ages, right? But for Gil, this is the most innings that he's thrown in his career up to this point, going into the postseason. I mean, how much are you going to expect out of him? I would imagine there probably will be a bit of a short leash. You'll probably go to Clark Schmidt. You'll also have Marcus Stroman. So I think the Yankees, they'll be ready to go. But the Royals, I think when you look at it from a matchup point of view, listen, they got the edge with this starting pitching. And another thing with the Royals, they have great defense. We saw it on full display against Baltimore. There were a couple of times when it came to Baltimore where they looked like there was a ball that looked like it was about to get through the infield and they were going to score, And then, someone like Michael Massey comes up big and makes like an incredible diving stop. The Royals have those defenders all over the place. So the Yankees, honestly, probably for the Yankees, what they're going to have to do to get by that defense is just to clobber the crap out of the ball. They're going to need Judge and Soto to be hitting home runs left and right. They're going to need Stanton to get that power going. I mean, if you want to beat the defense, we'll just avoid the defense. Hit the long ball. But for Kansas City, let's actually, let's lean on that a little bit. Let's lean on that. How has Kansas City done when it comes to the home run ball this year? They're actually number 1 in Major League Baseball when it comes to home runs per 9. So the Yankees, I mean, listen, when it comes to that defense for the Royals, that's hard to get by. And the Royals don't give up home runs. The Royals are excellent at run prevention. As the old saying goes, pitching and defense wins championships. The Royals have both of it top notch, right? I mean, I'm going to be honest, when I'm looking at this series, I'm going to be honest, a part of me wants to pick the Royals. I really do. I feel like the heart in me says the Yankees, right? Because you got the stars. You got the guys that should come up in these big spots. You got your ace in Garrett Cole. But the Royals, when you just look at the way they play, when it comes to how they play in the postseason, I mean, it's going to come down to execution, of course. They didn't have Soto and Judge against the Orioles, but the Royals, I think they're set up really well here. I really do. But the Yankees, the big key for them, I think the biggest key is they need the rest of the lineup to do stuff, right? It can't just be Soto Judge. If I were to go with a pick here, it's really tough. I don't know. To me, I think when you're looking at games 1, 2, 3, I think the Royals, at home, game 3, they could take a 2-1 lead. And then you got Cole again in Kansas City. Michael Wacha, could Wacha end up being the X factor in this? We know what Reagans and Lugo can do. But Wacha, he's had a solid year. I think one of the more underrated years in Major League Baseball. I mean, if we're to look at the game log, he hasn't, I don't think, has he even pitched against the Yankees this year? He hasn't even pitched against the Yankees. So, I think a part of me probably thinks here, actually, funny enough, if you look at the 5-game outcome probabilities, Zips right now, they give the Yankees in 5 games at 18.7%. They give the Royals in 5 games at 18.6%. So if this goes 5, right now the projections are just split, right? I see you, Golden Spation. I know. Rodon for the Royals this year. 13 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. But, advanced metrics. I don't know. Rodon, I don't trust him very much. I saw Rodon in person this year. My Red Sox were hitting him around a little bit. Let's see. But, right now, I think for the Yankees, I don't know. I don't even know if I agree with that. I don't think the Yankees win this in 4 games. I think the Yankees, I think this is going to go 5, the way I see it. Maybe you could see a situation where the Yankees, they can do enough against Seth Lugo, right? Lugo was starting to run into a little trouble against the Orioles at one point. So if the Yankees can get to Lugo, I think that's going to be a key game. The classic swing game, the game 3. If they can get enough from Heel, and I would imagine Schmidt would probably come in after him, or Stroman. If they can piece together a game 3, I think I think I think the Yankees, they should be able, in my opinion, to go up 2-1 after Game 3. I don't know. This is tough, man. I think it's like I think a big thing when you look at a team like the Royals, you see, you have Bobby Witt, right? But you don't see a star-studded lineup. You do see Reagans and Lugo. You do see a good bullpen. That's actually another thing I didn't touch on. Let's actually touch on that real quick. The bullpens. Royals' bullpen has been phenomenal, right? It's not just the starting pitching. Their bullpen has been nasty. I mean, Ursig, I think, was one of the best pickups at the deadline, if not the best pickup at the deadline. Bubic, Schreiber, Lynch. These guys have been stepping up big time. They were great in that first round. But the Yankees, on the other hand, they have question marks in this bullpen. They do. They have question marks. Luke Weaver has stepped up in a big way. But again, the calendar flips. Does he keep it going? I like Canely back there, Not an amazing year for Canely. He's had a couple of bumps leading up to the postseason. But overall, a good year. A very good year. ERA at 2.11. Now, Clay Holmes, he is, in my opinion, the biggest X factor when it comes to this bullpen. What are you going to get out of Clay Holmes? This is a guy that couldn't lock it down in the regular season. Blew 12 saves. Is he someone that you can count on in the bullpen? I think in the end, when my heart says the Yankees, my head says the Royals, but then again, my potato brain gets the best out of me. I think in the end, I'll say this. I think the Yankees will find a way to win this. I think they'll find a way. But you can bet your buns that the Royals are going to give them a tough series. I don't think this is going to be easy. I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk. I'm seeing Yankee fans out there. They are saying this is a cakewalk. This is not a cakewalk. This is very tough. I will say this. Sharif is blessed. The Royals can't even score. Good pitching always beats good hitting. Always. Will Reagans and Lugo be good enough? They're going to be good. I will give the edge to the Yankees, but I'm going to say it right now. I know this is a bit of a cop-out kind of an answer. I will not be surprised at all if the Royals win this series. Will not be surprised at all. I'm like 52% Yankees right now. 48% Royals. I'm gonna bank on the fact that the Yankees, they come up big, they figure it out in the lineup. I'm not even gonna lean on Judge and Soto. I'm gonna think that these other guys figure it out too. Someone like Jazz, maybe even Stanton comes through in a big spot. I think the Yankees find a way. But my goodness, don't be shocked if the Royals make it. Don't be. Oh, we got a big super chat. Nathan. Oh, my goodness. Nathan, I got to heart that one. Nathan, my goodness. How do I got to put the little heart on there. It won't let me heart it. I don't know why it's not letting me. Nathan, thank you so much, my friend. There we go. Nathan, let's go Guardians. Beat the Tigers. Love the channel. Nathan, thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate that. That is very, very nice of you, my friend. Thank you. At this point, okay. All right, go Guardians at this point. Go Guardians. My goodness. I think for the Guardians, yes, I am leaning Tigers. But again, if they put it together, with the pitching, if they can get good starts, they got the bullpen. You just got to bridge that gap. That's the only thing I wonder about. Will they be able to piece it together? I think they have enough bats that can match up with Detroit. There's just something about that quirkiness of the Tigers, right? It's just different, man. It's kind of one of those things with the Tigers where, AJ Hinch, he's just pushing buttons, man. But Nathan, you're amazing, my friend. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate that. Thank you, Nathan. Should be a fun series, though. Tigers Guardians. Should be fun. But I don't know. Do I want to go Yankees in this one? Do you know how badly I want to pick Royals here? I mean, listen, CRAS951, $1.99. The Royals win because of the Will Smith effect. I mean, he has a point, everyone. He has a point. They got Will Smith. I'm just saying. I think the Royals are winning it now. Now that you mentioned Will Smith, I'm just saying. Now, C-Rise, thank you, my friend. I'll lean Yankees here. I'll lean Yankees, but I'll leave a little bit of room for error. Do not count out the Royals. You should not be taking the Royals lightly. Pitching and defense wins championships. They get the timely hitting. Can the Yankees pitch? Can they pitch enough? Can they get by these, the timely hitting of Kansas City? I'll go with it. I'll lean Yankees. But a part of me really wants to pick the Royals. I'm going to be very honest with you. Let's move on here. I feel like I'm just kind of repeating myself left and right. Let's wrap this up here with the Padres and the Dodgers. I mean, listen, Yankee fans out there, I know you are, what is this? Oh, it's a bill. I thought that was a hat. Anyway, I know Yankee fans, you're paying attention, obviously, to your series, but I think we can all agree the Padres and the Dodgers, that's going to be the one people got their eyes on the most. I'm excited for it. It's going to be very entertaining. We actually did get some news today. Joe Musgrove is getting Tommy John surgery. Well, okay then. Okay. But here are the odds. According to Zips, Dodgers at 58%, Padres at 41%, 41.7. So my guess is they're leaning Dodgers because of a few things. Shohei Ohtani being one of them. You got Mookie. You got Freeman. Now, granted, Freeman is dealing with an ankle. Let's see how that goes. That could be interesting. That could end up being a big difference maker. Let's see how he is, man. I don't know. There's a lot to cover here in this series. Let's start with the Padres. I mean, everyone's hot on the Padres right now. I mean, listen, the Padres are a well-balanced team, and they're just excellent, right? They do a lot of things very well, right? The lineup is deep. You got boppers. You got guys that can do different things in the lineup, right? Luis Ariz is the table setter. You got Tatis. You got Profar. You got Machado. You got Merrill. Listen, the protection with all of those guys, the protection is off the charts. Like, Ariz is the table setter, and then you got Tatis, and you got Profar protecting him, and then you got Machado protecting Profar, and then Merrill protecting Machado, and then Bogarts protecting Merrill. It is ridiculous. This lineup is so good. I mean, there is a very little room for error with this lineup. It's so good. And then you look at the starting pitching, right, with the Padres, right? Michael King, he was phenomenal against the Braves. I don't know why Joe Musgrove is still here, but Dylan Cease, Yu Darvish. Now, here are the matchups. Unfortunately, it's going to be Yamamoto against Dylan Cease. They robbed me. They robbed me of my my Japan ace matchup, Darvish and Yamamoto. Why can't they just give us the storybook matchups? I mean, come on, man. Darvish versus Yamamoto would have been so fun. You know, what a matchup that would be. The storylines would be off the charts. But unfortunately, it's Dylan Cease and Yamamoto. Now, I will say this. Now, I got some keys. Here. Now, when it comes to the Dodgers, now, I think a big key for the Dodgers is to get ground balls, right? Now, if we take a look at the Padres' numbers this year against sinkers, the Padres have not done well against sinkers this year. 28th in Major League Baseball against sinkers. So, Yamamoto, man, right? This is a guy, he works in that two-seamer. He's got that splitter as well. Now, the Padres, they actually have had a lot of success against the splitter. But if Yamamoto here, I have Yamamoto pulled up here. Where is he? There he is. Now, Yamamoto gets a lot of ground balls, right? 48.3. Unfortunately, he doesn't throw a whole lot of sinkers. So, he's going to have to do something here where he's going to have to try to get the Padres to get the ball on the ground. I think that's the big key when it comes to solving the Padres. Don't let them put the ball in the air because they do a lot of damage, right? Obviously, they'll hit some home runs. They'll hit a lot of gappers, right? They're very good at just making solid contact in the air, right? You want to keep the Padres on the ground as much as possible, in my opinion. And Yamamoto, I think the big thing for him, he doesn't really go to that. Could you see Yamamoto maybe go more towards a two-seamer sinker? Try to induce. He gets a lot of ground balls. So, let's see what attack plan he has against this Padres team. Now, like we saw, the Padres have hit splitters pretty well this year. So, I think with him, when he does go to that splitty, I think he's going to have to place it very well. We'll see. But Yamamoto, sure, he has missed, a good amount of time this year, but they're going to need a great performance out of him. Now, Dylan Cease, on the other hand, if we're looking at Dylan Cease, let's go pull up these numbers here. So Dylan Cease, we all know this guy has very good stuff. Very good stuff. So Cease, he leans very heavily on the fastball slider combo. Now, if we're going to take a look at the rankings when it comes to offenses against sliders, the Dodgers are number 2 overall. So Cease, could this end up being a problem where, the Dodgers, they hit that pitch pretty well? I don't know. When it comes to fastballs, funny enough, the Dodgers actually don't hit fastballs all that great. Not a great hitting fastball team. So I think Cease, what you could see is he really leans on the fastball, right? He kind of uses that slider more to get him off balance a bit. Maybe works in, a few of those curveballs a little bit. I think you could see the usage of the curveball go up a little bit. Maybe gets more of that sweeper involved. We'll see. But I think Cease, I think you're going to see him kind of differentiate the pitches a little bit. I think he's going to have to go with a different attack plan against this Dodgers lineup. But that should be a very intriguing matchup, in my opinion. Darvish against Flaherty. Now, Flaherty, if we go back to these numbers that I just showed you, when it comes to back to the sliders, the Padres are number 1 overall against sliders this year. Now, with Flaherty, that's not Flaherty. There's Flaherty. Flaherty, 28% sliders this year. So I think with him, you're probably going to see him try to lean more towards that curve, I think. Now, when it comes to the curveball, the Padres, they're kind of whatever against curveballs this year. 16th overall. They're not bad against them, but that's what I think you're going to see Flaherty lean more towards. Goes to that curve, works with that fastball. I think you see him avoid those sliders a bit. He'll still throw them, but he'll tone them down. So I really think what this is going to come down to, I know I'm kind of, sounds like I'm talking a lot of mumbo jumbo. That's not surprising with me. You all know me. I tend to ramble. I think really kind of what I'm getting at here, it's going to come down to who is going to have the better game plan and obviously executing your game plan, right? How are they going to attack these hitters? That's going to be the big thing. These lineups, they're stacked, right? I talked about the Padres lineup. We all know the Dodgers lineup. The Dodgers lineup is stacked. That is going to be the big thing. It's going to be the little things. How are you going to attack these hitters? All right. I think if the Dodgers can keep the Padres grounded, I think that's going to go a long way for the Dodgers. And I think for the Padres, I think at this point, you just have to really try and attack these guys, right? I mean, if we look at Shohei Ohtani, it's actually hilarious looking at Ohtani here. You know, when you look at the zones, he doesn't swing out of the zone, really, ever. Like sometimes, you know, if it's up and away, he'll swing a little bit up and away, right? 43% swing percentage up and away. But if you look at the slugging percentage in the zone, I mean, you have nowhere to go with Ohtani. I mean, we all know how good Ohtani is. I just think it's kind of hilarious looking at this. Everywhere in the strike zone, he just clobbers you. So I think the key with Ohtani, I mean, you pretty much just, you take your vitamins, say your prayers, and you do your best against Ohtani. But if they can somehow get him to chase out of the zone a little bit, they're going to have to try and fool him. That's very, very easy said than done. But you have to avoid, I mean, you're going to have to pitch around Ohtani pretty much. But that's tough because if you pitch around Ohtani and he gets on base, well, then you got Mookie and Freddie Freeman that come up. Now, if we take a look at Mookie this year, with Mookie, if the Padres can attack him up in that zone, right? Stay out of that strike zone, right? But if they can try and go up a little bit, up and in, he tends not to swing very much up and in. Now, if you look at the slugging percentage, up and in is kind of a spot where he has some fits. So I expect the Padres to really attack him there. That's going to be interesting because Mookie is a guy that has a lot of pressure on him this postseason to come through because he's had a lot of down times in the postseason, right? So there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. Now, as for Freddie Freeman, right? I mean, we all know Freddie Freeman, very disciplined hitter, doesn't really chase all that much out of the zone, right? He swings a lot at pitches in the zone. But if you're looking here at, I guess you can, let's say batting average with Freddie Freeman, right? I think of Freeman as more of just a good hitter and over, being like a power kind of a guy. But, with Freeman, away from Freeman, up and away tends to be the way to go with him. As you can see, up and away in the strike zone, he's only hitting 130. Away from him, he's only hitting 222. So they're going to have to avoid, obviously, the middle of the plate. He tends to like the ball down and away. As you can see here, he's hitting 361 in this quadrant. So, again, pretty much what I'm getting at here, there's going to be a lot of little details that these teams are going to have to accomplish, right? Attacking certain parts of the zone, going with certain pitches. I think it's a lot more than just, wow, the Dodgers have stars and the Padres have stars and the Padres have this pitcher and the Dodgers have this guy, right? It's really going to come down to looking at your scouting reports and who's going to execute better, right? Yes, I can sit here and say, pitch up and into Mookie. Are you going to do it, right? Let's see. At the end of the day, it's kind of hard to predict that outcome, but I think, when you're looking at how good the Padres are playing as of late, they're going to give the Dodgers a lot of fits in this series. The Padres are going to have a lot to handle here with this lineup. The Dodgers are going to have a lot to handle with that lineup as well. Starting pitching, I would lean Padres right now. I mean, Cease, we haven't seen him in the early going yet. That's very good on the Padres for keeping him ready for this spot. But, when it comes to Flaherty, if I'm going matchup, I could see Cease, and Yamamoto. Again, when I'm looking at the Padres, when it comes to the batted ball profile, let me go take one more look at something here. Here we go. Let's see. Batted ball, fly balls. See, San Diego. Let me actually look at line drive percentage. So as you can see here, just like I was saying earlier, I didn't even look at this number earlier. The Padres are number 2 overall when it comes to line drive percentage. Right? So they make good quality contact. That you want to avoid that as much as possible. And as you can see here with the Padres, they are, when it comes to ground ball percentage, right around league average, 13th overall. That's what you want to do, man. You need to keep the ball on the ground with the Padres, in my opinion. If Yamamoto can do that, and he has the stuff to do it, he has a high ground ball percentage, I think you could see Yamamoto possibly have a bit of an advantage in this matchup, just based off of the profiles. Again, it's going to come down to execution. Yamamoto did miss some time. He did pitch in September. But we'll see. Jack Flaherty, Yu Darvish, again, when we go back to those numbers there, the Padres hit sliders really well. And if Flaherty, if he can't manage that, if he can't figure out a way to get by the Padres lineup, without leaning on his secondary pitch, I mean, that could end up being a problem start for him. Now, this is where you get into the thick of things here. Let's say it's tied 1-1 after 2. I could see that. I could see the Dodgers taking game 1. I could see the Padres taking game 2. Then you go to a game 3. And then you got Michael King and Walker Buehler. Right now, the odds are going to lean heavily on Michael King. Walker Buehler has been extremely up and down this year. It's been a bad year. I'm curious to see what he does in the offseason when it comes to, where, I would imagine he's probably going to do a 1-year deal, something like that. But this is a big start for Buehler. Now, if we're to go to Walker Buehler, I mean, again, not a good year for Buehler. But we can at least, kind of see what's going on with him. So he did pitch pretty well in his last start, though. Did pitch pretty well. Now, as you can see here, he's obviously been throwing a lot of pitches, but he's leaned mostly on the fastball here. Right? He's gone with the cutters a good amount. He's gone with those curves. All right, he's gone with the sinkers. But that's another, I wonder if he really leans. Again, the Padres, you want to keep him grounded. So if he can go sinkers, I think he could end up delivering a good start. That could be something to pay attention to. Now, I mean, if you're looking here, the knuckle curve this year. And let's go back to the Padres and how they do against knuckle curves. They're 4th overall. So if you're looking at cutters, kind of in the middle of the road. Oh, no, that's not cutters. That's curveballs. Let's go to the cutters. San Diego, they're 21st. They actually have not performed very well against cutters. Now, Buehler, he could end up being a tough matchup for the Padres. Just based off of the pitch profile. Execution is a completely different story. So, if he has that cutter working and he gets the ground balls, I think Buehler could end up delivering in this start. I think. But, obviously, Michael King has been very good as well. Now, if we're to look at Michael King, obviously, we just saw him firsthand against the Braves. Now, the Braves lineup, I want to say this. No offense to Michael King, but that Braves lineup has been shot, okay? So I want to look at Michael King over a full season. Lots of ground balls for Michael King. lots of sinkers, but not a lot of ground balls, believe it or not. Goes with that two-seamer a lot. Goes with the changeup. He mixes in a good 3-pitch, about 4-pitch mix. Sinker, changeup, 4-seamer, and the sweeper. Now, if you're looking at the Dodgers when it comes to the sinkers, right? The Dodgers, they hit sinkers pretty well. They're actually the number 1 team this year against sinkers. So that could be interesting. Based off of the numbers and what we're looking at right there, I think you could see an interesting situation. All right, let me actually go to Michael King when it comes to his stuff or his numbers against the Dodgers. I mean, he pitched very well against them his last time out. 5 innings, 3 hits, 0 earned. And then I believe he pitched against them earlier in the year. He's had great success against them this year. He did have the couple of bumpy starts in the beginning. So it looks like after those starts, he made an adjustment. I would have to go into those starts and see like kind of what he was doing. I see you in the chat. Venny, King worries me a lot. Dodgers look lost when he's on the mound. Orlando, King delivery is deceptive. Yeah. No, King is good. I like Michael King. But again, it's going to come down to the execution of the game plan. Of the Dodgers, he adjusted to them. If they can adjust back to him, then you might have something. I think, a lot of people are going to look at this matchup and go automatically Michael King. But I say give Buehler a chance. Based off of the profile, Buehler can get it done. Will he, though? I don't know. And then, they got Martin Perez, Landon Knack for Game 4. So that ends up probably being a bullpen game. I will say this. If it ends up being a bullpen game for the Dodgers, I do trust the depth of the bullpen for the Dodgers in a bullpen game. So I would actually go Dodgers in that Game 4 situation. Let's say this. Yamamoto and the Dodgers take Game 1. Padres come back in Game 2. Michael King pitches another great outing. Padres take Game 3. Dodgers have a bullpen game, and I believe personally the bullpen is deeper. They take Game 4. I'm not saying it's better, Padres fans. Don't get mad at me. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's deeper. I think they have more arms that they could turn to. Doesn't necessarily mean that it would, give you a win, but I'm just saying. Let's say it goes to a Game 5. Then you'd have, Dylan Cease and Yamamoto again. I will say this. Let's go back. Let's look at Cease. How has Cease done against the Dodgers? And again, I know I talked about this earlier where it doesn't really matter what you did in the regular season. But it's something you can look at. Because the one reason I do like to look back at past performances is because you can see it really comes down to adjustments at the end of the day, right? You look at Cease here. He went 5 innings, 3 earned in his last start against the Dodgers. Before that, 5 innings, 5 2/3, sorry. So that was it, 2 starts. Nothing amazing by any means, but it looks like, Cease, he would have to really step it up, I think, to twirl a gem against the Dodgers. The Dodgers seem, based off of these 2 starts, they seem to give him at least some fits to where he doesn't go deep into a game. And then Yamamoto, here's the one thing about Yamamoto. The guy, listen, say what you will, about the injuries and whatnot and how he missed time. He's nasty. It's kind of hard to adjust to a guy like Yamamoto, in my opinion, with just how nasty his stuff is. Now, Cease has great stuff too. I'm just saying, I feel like Yamamoto, based off of the history with, and I know the Dodgers, when they played the Padres in the Korea series, the Padres, they got to Yamamoto a little bit. Look, that was back in March, okay, April. Long time ago. Cease, just recently, he hasn't really been able to go deep against the Dodgers very much. Now, Yamamoto, I just wonder, is that really a guy that you can adjust, so heavily against? Maybe you could scratch over like a couple more hits, something like that. I think that could be an interesting game 5 if that ends up being the matchup. For me personally, listen, I feel like I'm probably talking out of my butt a little bit, like, 'cause I'm trying to like almost just come up with an answer on the fly, because it really is, I think, that close of a series. I think in the end, when I'm looking at this Ohtani chart, man, when I look at that, when I look at the swing percentage, and he barely chases all that much, well, okay, I take that back. He chases a bit, right? But when you see that, doesn't really chase down and in, doesn't really chase up and in, not really away, up and away, if they can attack that, then yeah, they can get some success. But I'm just looking at this ridiculousness if you leave anything in the zone for Ohtani, you're done. I think when you have someone like him, that's just such a difference maker, in my opinion. But it's not going to be all about him. They need Mookie to come up big. Freeman is somehow going to have to figure this out. I mean, with a bum ankle at the end of the day. But let's talk about this too. We talked about the depth of the Padres. Listen, the Dodgers, they got some guys in here too. Teoscar is great protection for Freeman. Muncy. You got Smith. You got Tommy Edman. Tommy Edman, I'm not going to say he's going to set the world on fire by any means, but, the Dodgers, they got some guys too. I think in the end, the Padres, they're kind of America's team right now, it feels like. It feels like everyone's on the Padres, the bandwagon a little bit. I feel like everyone is lining up for the Padres right now. I think personally the Dodgers should have enough to get this done. When you got Ohtani, when you got just an X factor like him, where he just he can change everything. When you got a guy like him, it's, man, there's only one Ohtani that we're ever going to see, I'll also look at one more thing before I make a full conclusion. I think these two teams are so tight. This is going to be such a good series. Let's look at the base running. Now, I will say this. When it comes to the Padres, they do run the bases pretty well. 4.7 on the year. But the Dodgers also run the bases pretty well. Now, a big part of that is Shohei. But remember, it's not just about stealing bases. It's also moving base to base. Can you take the extra base? That's a big part of this number as well. Now the Padres, they got a couple guys. Well, you're not going to have Kim, but I wonder here if maybe the Dodgers, can they utilize the base paths? And listen, and that goes for Ohtani as well. Ohtani, we obviously know the bat, but yeah, this guy stole 59 bases this year. He can change things on those base paths. He's the leadoff hitter. If he gets on, he gets in scoring position. I feel like in the end, I just think the Dodgers they should be a little better all around. That's my opinion. I will go Dodgers in this series. That's where I picked with my predictions coming in. I will go Dodgers. But, of course, the Padres absolutely have a chance here. Why wouldn't they? Just saying. But that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. I'm feeling Dodgers, but, you always have to be careful with the Dodgers. The postseason demons, they tend to be hanging around the Dodgers quite a bit. The Padres are playing great baseball right now. And also, I will say this with Ohtani. I don't expect a layoff to hurt that guy. I think, honestly, he probably enjoys the layoff a little bit. And he's probably getting some much-needed rest after just the ridiculous season that he had. I think the Ohtani effect is real. I think the Dodgers, they should have enough when it comes to the starting pitching. The bullpen, I think, is deep. You got guys behind Ohtani that can make things happen. Padres got a great lineup. Dodgers got a great lineup. I think it's going to come down to the little things in this series. I'm going to go right now that the Dodgers, they make enough moves to be able to win this in 5 games. I feel like if it doesn't go 5 games, I feel like this series has to go 5. Has to. I feel like there's no other way. It needs to go 5. That's kind of where I'm at right now. This is no slight to the Padres at all. At all. They're very good. And I think they very well could win this series. But I'm just going to lean right now that the Dodgers, they do enough little things to get this done. That's my opinion. And they're probably all going to be wrong. So, Dodgers fans, I'm sorry. I just gave you the kiss of death. I am sorry for that. So, you're welcome, Padres fans. But everyone, I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm going to get out of here. Hey, a good amount of you showed up tonight. I appreciate that. I wasn't really sure what to expect tonight. I kind of thought Friday night, I don't know, maybe not so much, but no, here we are. Good night. Thank you again for the super chats. Again, the $50 bomb that we got earlier from Nathan. Thank you for that, my friend. I greatly appreciate that. That really goes a long way. CRAZ951, thank you for that as well. We had a couple more supers that came in here. We had one from Jimmy Productions. I didn't see this one. Jimmy Productions. Thank you so much. $4.99. I got the Dodgers winning because Ohtani, but I would love for the Padres to win it. Yeah, I think it's going to, Ohtani's a big factor, right? It is, at the end of the day, it is a full team. But Ohtani, what he brings, with both the bat and the legs, I think that can make a difference. And Ohtani is going to be going all out. That's another exciting thing. No matter who you root for, I mean, we get to see Shohei Ohtani in the postseason. That's wonderful. That is amazing. But everyone, it's going to be fun. We'll be here tomorrow. I will be live tomorrow. I probably will be... I'm probably going to start right before the Dodgers game starts. The Yankees, they start at 6:30. So I'll probably come on here at like 8 o'clock or so. Yeah, I'll react to the end of the Yankee game. I won't be here for the Tigers, Guardians, unfortunately. Mets and the Phillies. I won't be around at that point either. But I do expect to be here for the end of the Yankees and the Royals. That's at 6:38 Eastern time. And then the Padres and the Dodgers are on at 8:30 Eastern time. So I'll definitely be here to react to the nightcap. And, but yeah, everyone, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming out tonight to listen to what my potato face has to say. Everyone, go have yourself a good rest of your night. I'll see you all tomorrow. And, yeah. I don't know. I was trying to come up with a closing line. Couldn't come up with one. See you later, everybody.